100. Barry, first of all, that was a shock yesterday. I mean, the Rangers game, you're already sitting down to watch it. The team were there. I've never heard of it, such a late decision, and the team weren't told in advance, the opposing team.
Yeah, it was a shambles, Paul, if I'm being honest. You're thinking you would see the weather forecast, what was going to be the day before or the night of the game, and if you have any slight concerns, you would cover it. But for the game to be called off at 10:15, I think it was, yeah, it doesn't look good for our game. And for Rangers, just to find out when they actually arrived, I think it came for the kit man that obviously notified the management team. So yeah, shambles yesterday, Paul, but listen, it is what it is. Rangers just need to go on with it. They'll go, I think they'll rest up for a few days. The international games are coming up, and then it'll be 3 games in the first week they come back.
08, 08, 17, 17, 700. Peter, I would have thought that the groundsmen would speak to each other or whatever. What's the protocol? Do the clubs not speak to each other? We knew the weather was bad on Saturday, but it got worse overnight.
Well, if you're talking about the boys were supposed to be in there for 5 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
you know you've got a problem, Paul. Yeah. So, of course, first thing you do in the mornings, whether it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you get in contact with somebody at Rangers and say, listen, we might have a slight issue here, we're not saying anything if there's any more rain. That's usually the conversation. But going with Philippe Clement, that didn't take place. And it was only because the kit man went along early, which they usually do, to hang the gear out. They said, listen, there could be a problem here. I find it strange, and I must admit, I said the day before, I had a funny feeling the game would be off, because I've been there myself when games at last minute at Dens Park have nearly been put off when I was at Alloa manager and whatever.
It's been off twice already this season.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
and
that's the fourth.
Yeah, fourth.
That's the
right,
fourth
okay.
game.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying, Barry. If you take over the last few years, and bear in mind, in my time, Dens used to be really good because of the slope on it, the water used to run off it, and it used to run right down to the bottom side. So that was fine, and the pitch was always great. Big changes now, but you're talking about this level, and that's when it goes back to them argument when people are talking about having the 4G and whatever, a good 4G or a really poor, pitch. And I know people don't like playing the 4G, but that tells you, that gives these people that's got the 4G the argument saying, well, listen, Rangers fans would have been in yesterday and watching the game would have been on, and that is the problem you have, and nobody wants it. But I think, like Philippe Clement says, it should be stipulated that the pitches have to be at a certain standard anyway.
Barry, when are they going to play?
See, the issue I have is there's obviously been 3 games previous that have been called off. They've got a problem with certain bits of the pitch. Now, if you know, as a groundsman, I would imagine being involved in football, they'll look at the weather forecast, they'll know what's coming and cover the bits up that are a problem. And obviously that wasn't the case, and that was the reason why the referee called it off, and he was right to call it off because it wasn't playable.